So this Ask IX session is the first of the 3 Ask IX sessions about ProAnalyst software. A lot has changed in ProAnalyst in the last few months, including an entirely new version coming out called ProAnalyst 2023. This is really the first time that we've presented it to the IX family and to explain it all. So the way that we're going to do this is I'm going to talk to the IX groups first as the administrator, as the president of Excitex, as the president of IX Cameras, and I'm going to talk about how the what's new in ProAnalyst 2023 and how it affects you guys as sales partners and family members here. So that having been said, I will speak for about a half hour. I have 15 slides, and they will talk about what's new, what's different, how to sell it, sales strategies, prices, upgrades, things like that. Then once that's done, I'll turn it over to Shane, who's the head application engineer at Excitex, and he will walk us through some examples, or an example of ProAnalyst today, ProAnalyst 2023 today, and show you what's new, show you how things are organized. I'll stay on, so if there are any questions about administration and costs and things like that, so I'll jump in. All right, so you get a half hour of me, and then you get a half hour of Shane, maybe 25 minutes of me. So the talk today is an Ask IX presentation. It's a joint presentation by Excitex and IX Cameras. They are working together, both companies, to get ProAnalyst 2023 to IX Cameras and IX sales partners. First thing I want to do is to explain to you what is ProAnalyst 2023. Let me introduce it to you. So ProAnalyst itself was invented in roughly 2005, 2006, really introduced around 2006 or so. It was a soft launch there. Excuse me. And it evolved over the years, but it was always the same code base. We kept changing, adding features, adding tools and things like that, but it was always the same code base. And 15 years in software life is a long time. The old copy of ProAnalyst has now been called Legacy. So you see that in the upper left-hand corner there. It's called Legacy ProAnalyst. That differentiates it from the new 2023, ProAnalyst 2023, down on the right. The old one we sold as Light Edition, Professional Edition, 3D Professional Edition. The new one we can sell just with individual tools and toolkits and things like that. You'll hear me talk about Legacy ProAnalyst and new 2023, ProAnalyst 2023, okay? And so we actually went back to the drawing board and made a new code base and a new infrastructure for ProAnalyst over the last 2 or 3 years. It's actually taken us about 3 years with COVID to do all this. We started it just before COVID. And it's taken that long to pull it apart and put it back together again to make a new platform. And there are many reasons why Excitex had to do this. The first of which is all the dongles that we were using and the dongle systems that we were using are now obsolete. So we had to change out all the security in ProAnalyst to a new security system. So that started the ball rolling. And then as we were doing that, the graphing changing, and then the video handlers needed changing, and everything needed changing. And in the end, it's an entirely new infrastructure to ProAnalyst. Now, you don't see that as a user. As a user, you have no idea that what's underneath the interface is an entirely new process. So the first reason for this is it's a new platform, and now we can go forward for growth. We're no longer just patching things here and there, but we now actually have a real platform for growth. While we were doing that, when I say we, Excitex was doing that, we put a new sales paradigm. The market has changed a little bit. There are a lot more players out there that think they know what they're doing. They come and go, they come and go. But what we've now done is we've ripped it apart so that everything now can be individually licensed. And by putting that in place, we can now sell what we call a la carte licensing. So I can take any individual tool or toolkit and license it individually. In the past, I had to take this group of toolkits or this group of toolkits and call this the light edition or the professional edition. Now I can take one tool and say, you want that? Sure, you can have that. We call that a la carte licensing. And a la carte licensing now means we have over 20-something toolkits to sell. The cheapest one, I think, is $200, and the most expensive one, I think, is $5,000. So we could sell copies of ProAnalyst for a couple $100 if that's what they needed. Or we can just sell the tools that people need individually. So we're really, really putting a lot more into ProAnalyst now from a licensing standpoint. There are new features, and Shane's going to show you those. The interface has grown. The next big horizon for us is a completely new interface with detachable panels and detachable screens and all, but that's going to take a couple of years, and that's probably going to be ProAnalyst 2025. So right now, so 2023 has a revised interface and an improved interface and redesigned, but it has the same feel to it that the legacy ProAnalyst had. We have new feature controls. We've made the graphing faster, and coming soon is the new video handlers. So we have a whole new video handling system going into it, so that we can handle a lot more video types and codecs and things like that. To start this, we have to fix our terminology, and there's all new terminology with ProAnalyst now. So now ProAnalyst has tools, toolkits, and toolboxes. Tools are what you click on to make things happen on the screen. They do analyses, they do calibrations, they do image processing, they do graphing. Those are called tools. A collection of tools is a toolkit. And a toolkit is usually in a control panel like this here, like you see them on the side. Those are called control panels. And for the most part, every control panel equals a toolkit. And to make purchasing easier, we can bundle these toolkits to create toolboxes. If you're going in to visit a customer and that customer is doing animal biomechanics, we can say, oh, here's an animal biomechanics toolbox. This toolbox contains standard calibration, it contains full parametric, feature tracking, and so on. But a toolbox is a purchasing option. Toolkits and tools are actually in the software. So you'll hear me talk about, and you'll hear Shane talk about tools, toolkits, and toolboxes. The first thing we did was we pulled ProAnalyst all apart. We took all the spaghetti and we just laid it all out on the table. And then before we put the spaghetti back together again, we said, okay, let's put it back together again in a logical format that now allows us to create toolkits. And if you go to the website, and I'm going to talk to the website here, you're going to see that we actually have little tiles that describe all the toolkits. Now, when we did that, we had sales in mind. And what we said was, okay, instead of having one giant feature tracking toolkit that would cost $5,000 or some big number, let's make a small toolkit for feature tracking, a medium toolkit for feature tracking, and a large toolkit for feature tracking. And we call those, for example, standard, adaptive, and full parametric. And then there's a super large one called the 3D stereoscopy, and then the biggest one, which is Turbo Deluxe Super Toolkit, and that one's called 3D multi-camera. And that was if you're doing an arena testing, okay? So there's 5 different levels of feature tracking now. And this is the benefit of us laying all the spaghetti on the table and putting it back together in an organized manner, all right? Calibration, same thing. We've put different calibration tools. And so if a customer is only doing 2D, only has one camera, then they don't need the 3D features. And if they're always going to be perpendicular or orthonormal to the actual plane, they don't need perspective calibration. So why sell them things that they don't need? I mean, we all want to do that, of course, because we're all in sales. But the idea is if they have very small amounts of money, we can give them exactly what they need for their money, sell more copies. All right. So you can go to the website and you can see all the toolkits that are there. So this is the Excitex website, and you can see now if you go to the website that we talk all about the different tools. Shane has put in a whole section on what's the difference between the different feature tracking. Here's all the chips and tiles of all the different toolkits that are available here. And then you can actually go to the purchase page and see how to build up toolboxes. You could say, geez, I want to build this toolbox and I want to put orthonormal calibration with image processing, with advanced data graphing, and maybe I'd use adaptive feature tracking, and you can see it'll make a little quote for you and tell you that one costs $3,780. Now, in the old days, under legacy, you couldn't buy anything for $3,780. The minimum price, well, you could buy a light, but it had a very limited feature set, but you couldn't buy an advanced feature tracking for $3,750. You had to buy the $6,000 version. We've now changed over to an entirely new license system, and it enables us to have 3 different types of licenses. The first license is the one that you're familiar with, which is you get a USB key. The USB key plugs into the computer. We call that now USB licensing. The second one is, if you want to, you can lock it to your computer, just the way Microsoft Office is locked onto your computer, or the way Adobe locks Photoshop onto your computer. You can download it, stick it on your computer. It gets locked on your computer. It can't be shared. No dongles, just license it to your computer. That's called PC licensing. And then the third one is what we call cloud licensing. You can log in with a username and password, and you can use it as long as you're connected to the internet for a month, 2 months, 3 months, 5 months, whatever you like. So we can now go to a subscription service. So if somebody has a project that's going to take 3 months, they can get a 3-month license. If somebody has a graduate student that's working for them, they can just license it for a month or 2. IX has made the deal with Excitex that all IX customers will get USB licenses. It's probably the best license system because it can move from computer to computer. So you could have it in your computer in your office, and then you could plug it into your customer's computer. You can do it from anywhere you want. All you have to do is move the USB key from customer to customer, from computer to computer. So all IX customers, because we're shipping, we being IX cameras, are shipping hardware, we just throw a dongle in the hardware case. They say, here, now you have the hardware, right? Excitex, now let's pretend that that customer comes back to you and says, we love ProAnalyst. It's freaking amazing, right? We want another license. We don't have to ship them another USB license. We can, but we can also say, here, we can just lock it to your computer, or you can give you a cloud license or a subscription license. There are other ways to do licensing besides the dongle, the USB dongle. IX customers will always get dongles because it's the best one of all, and it's the most flexible, and it fits the hardware paradigm. So let's talk a little bit about selling. You guys are all IX cameras distributors, so you want to sell ProAnalyst, and Excitex is going to make it easy for you to sell ProAnalyst to your customers. So now all cameras from IX cameras will come with some version of ProAnalyst 2023. The 2 series never used to go out with ProAnalyst Legacy. So 2s, 5s, 7s, and in the future 3s, 4s, new 5s, and so on will all have ProAnalyst 2023 toolkits included in it. The goal is to sell more toolkits. The goal is to turn around and say, okay, you have these 7 toolkits, but are you interested in buying this toolkit or this toolkit or this toolkit to add to the 7 that you have? And to go back to your existing users and upgrade those users so that you can then go back and sell more a la carte toolkits. All right. We also want you, of course, to keep promoting Strikeforce applications. Sorry about the typo. Excitex is also changing away from distribution Software uses resellers. Hardware uses distribution and dealership. There's a subtle difference legally, but the bottom line is Excitex now has resellers. They are non-exclusive, worldwide resellers. And that is the entire software model for everything from Microsoft to Adobe to Oracle to everybody else out there. Software has no territories. It only has PCs and users. Excitex has, now that we've moved to ProAnalyst 2023, two levels of resellers: certified resellers and regular resellers. A regular reseller comes to us and they said, here, I want to buy a piece of software for a client of ours. A certified reseller has somebody who we're working closely with on an individual basis, who's made a level of commitment to buy product from Excitex, and who has staff that are trained by Excitex that are obviously capable of doing demonstrations that we would normally do. All right, so there's two levels of resellers: certified and regular. IX Cameras is a certified reseller. At this writing, there are only 4 certified resellers in the whole world. High Speed Imaging Inc. is in Canada. IX Cameras, MREL, which is a mining company. They do mining in Chile and Peru and places like that. And a company called Payport Holdings in Hong Kong, who is a big seller for Excitex. So IX Cameras has made a deal with Excitex, a legal agreement, to sell a certain amount of ProAnalyst in exchange for certain benefits. They're now a certified reseller. You guys are all part of IX Cameras, of course, so you should run your work through IX Cameras as a certified reseller. That way, we don't have to have double status, and you can get the benefits that IX Cameras has negotiated. All right, you order from IX Cameras orders from Excitex in bulk. What is bundled with each camera? This is the deal where certified reseller of IX Cameras has agreed to bundle ProAnalyst with each camera. If you currently buy a 2 series or sell a 2 series, or customer buys a 2 series, they get this toolbox that is now branded as IX Introductory Toolbox. And that includes 7 different toolkits, and it comes with a USB dongle. That's what you get with a 2 series. Previously, you being the customer, you got what was called the introductory edition of ProAnalyst Legacy. So we don't use the word editions anymore. We're just now going to toolkits. Okay? All the cameras get intro now, and only if they buy the premium bundle of software do they get the light toolkits, the additional toolkits. In fact, they get 9 or 10 different toolkits, most of the ones that you saw before, but they also get perspective calibration toolkit. They get the image processing toolkit, which is a new toolkit. Previously, this used to be called the light edition. But again, we stopped using the word editions anymore. We're now using toolkits. Everything is a la carte. In the newest price list that just went out, the section from ProAnalyst has been really condensed because it's a lot easier to sell now. There used to be 3 pages of ProAnalyst. If you had light and you wanted to go to a professional, if you had light and you wanted to go to 3D professional, if you had this and you wanted to go to that, it was complicated. Now it's really simple. These are the toolkits you have. These are the toolkits that you don't have. Sell those toolkits. And so all we have on the price list are the toolkits that are not included. Contour, edge analysis, stereoscopy, impact excursion, particle image velocimetry. These are toolkits that are new. You can sell those, okay? So your price list, it's a lot simpler, but it's more powerful. We want you to upgrade your current customers. We being Excitex wants you to upgrade. We being IX Cameras wants you to upgrade those customers. ProAnalyst Legacy is going to reach its end of life. The last version of ProAnalyst Legacy has already been posted. There are no more changes going to ProAnalyst. Bug fixes, everything. The last version is already posted to the website. So all the new stuff that we're working on is ProAnalyst 2023. Go back to your customers and say, hey, I've got something new, something exciting, some really cool software to show you. Software makes the camera more attractive. Let me show you this cool new software called ProAnalyst 2023. If you haven't used ProAnalyst before, you're going to really like 2023, blah, 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 and you can go in and sell it to them. If your customer has ProAnalyst Introductory Edition, upgrade them to these toolkits. And here's the benefit. And the price for that upgrade is $895. It basically covers the cost of the dongle and the cost of the administration of the upgrade. For $1,000 or $900, you can move from an old platform that has end of life to the newest, most current platform, which is going to go forward with earnest. If your customer has ProAnalyst Lite, you need to upgrade them to this toolbox of toolkits. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. There are 10 of them. These will give you, as a customer, these will give you the same functionality that you had with Lite, plus full parametric feature tracking, which is an entirely new. And this one is $13.95. Both of these require a dongle exchange, and the reason for it, of course, is ProAnalyst end of life is imminent. Legacy is imminent, and they're low cost additions. If you wanted to add something to a current ProAnalyst, you may or may not be able to do that. With the new one, it's all a la carte. We also want to sell more training. Software companies have moved towards service-oriented sales, and training is our service that we can provide for people. Excitex offers multiple different types of training, and we are ramping up the company to get more people available to do training, but we're going to move towards training classes. So every month on the third Thursday of the month, we will have a training class, and people can join it, and they will pay us $1,000 to join it, and it's 3 hours or whatever it is. We can do individual training. We can train one-on-one with people. They can buy 8 hours of one-on-one training. They can buy 3-on-1 training. They can buy training at their facilities. We'll even fly out to their facilities if they want to do a big training class. But in the new world now, nobody's doing training classes except remote training, and we can do training remotely. There is an entire web page dedicated to training now. This is the service that IX Cameras is providing. That leads to what's our new demo strategy. So the Excitex demo strategy has changed. In the past, we've given out CDs, we've given out links, we've given out dongles, and we've said, here's 35 days to try it. Here's a time-limited license. Here's a watermarked license. Here's you can't save, you can't use it, you can't print it. All that's done. We're all done with all that. Now, we're demoing with the copies that we're selling. We're demoing with ProAnalyst Essentials. We're giving away Essentials, saying, try this. Here, try ProAnalyst Essentials. If you like it, then come back and we'll sell you ProAnalyst 2023. And you'll get all the toolkits that you need, and you'll get all the features that you're missing. ProAnalyst Essentials right now has no advertisements, but it will. In the near future, right now we're getting it out there and getting people comfortable, but soon you'll see things like, if you click on this feature and it's grayed out, it'll come up and say, oh, I'm sorry, that's a feature that's licensed in ProAnalyst 2023. Would you like to have somebody call you about 2023? Or it's all going to advertise ProAnalyst 2023. So it's a great demo tool. When the cloud licensing gets fully established here, users can go online and play for a month, license it for a month for $400 or $500 or whatever, and if they like it, keep licensing or change their license. That'll be a full 3D license. They can use it and go from there. And because we're now PC locking it, we can lock it to our demo users, we can lock it to the distributors, we can lock it to the certified resellers, and lock it to your computers. So what's most important here is no more free downloads, no more trials, no more time-limited trials, no more watermarking. All that's gone, And we're just down to here's the real software, use it, like it, buy more of it, okay? Next slide here is all about ProAnalyst Essentials. And while we were there, we also took ProAnalyst and said, you know what, let's give out a free copy. Let's seed the marketplace. Let's try and be bold and aggressive in this marketplace. So we created what's called ProAnalyst Essentials. ProAnalyst Essentials is a free version of software that we're giving out to everybody and their uncle and their aunt and their grandparents, that we want them to use ProAnalyst Essentials to seed the marketplace. You can go to the website, download it, and just be licensed to run within 7 minutes or 10 minutes. But it's very restrictive. You can only do non-rotating objects. You can only have lookup tables, which is called standard image processing, lookup tables. There's no image filtering in it. The calibration is based on scalar. So this is a very limited feature set, but it's enough to get people to go, ooh, this is good. I like this company. ProAnalyst Essentials. We want to get 25 to 50 to 100 downloads a day, or 25 downloads a day. Just tell people it's out there, because those people will turn into customers. Those people you can go back to and say, did you like Essentials? Do you like Essentials? Do you like Essentials? Turn it into a customer selling, and we can use that to build our database. Excitex is moving to a more online presence. Everything on our website, Excitex's website, will be more automated. You'll see a lot more features. I showed you the automatic quote generator. There's a whole page about upgrading, but there's a lot to the website. I really want everybody to go to the website and play around. So Excitex will handle as much as possible directly. I mean, when I say directly, it's all automated. If they go online and they type in the quote information, they're going to get a quote. They're going to get a quote. It's the same price that you're offering, that IX is offering. If you are working with somebody and you're expecting that somebody to send in a quote, and if you're working with that customer and you tell us that you're working with that customer, and it's an IX customer, we will pass that. We will sell it back through IX channel, and you'll get your discount. But we don't have. Excitex has no way of knowing distributors or dealers or resellers anymore. The only reason it's all automated now. It's all website automated. Okay. As far as discounts go, you have deals. Everybody has a different deal with IX cameras based on your volumes, your territories, your history, and so on. Your deal, your discount is done by your contract. We have a plan going forward. It's many years now. This is the second step of the plan. In 2014, when we started IX cameras, we had ProAnalyst Lite edition was bundled with the 5 and 7 series. There was 7 series back then, but 5 series subsequently. And then in 2019, we added this thing called the introductory edition to the 2 series for free. Now, today, 2023, ProAnalyst 2023 is out there. PA23 is ProAnalyst 2023. We're moving towards toolboxes, and there's IX. So we've created this IX Lite toolbox and IX introductory toolbox. And they're going to go out with 2 5s and 7s and other cameras in the future. And then in the future, probably later this year, hopefully, that's something Nick and I will be working on. We're going to drop the IX Lite and drop the IX intro naming, and so that we're just talking about toolboxes. We want to get away from editions. We want to get away from the use of the word light in the intro, and that's evolutionary for us. But today we're still using it. Great, good to see everybody. Shane, you're up. I'll mute myself and I'll unshare my screen. Stop sharing my screen, and I'll mute myself, and you can take over.
So hi, I'm Shane. I'm an application engineer here at Excitex. So I'm going to be showcasing a lot of the changes and new features that Peter mentioned. And to do that, I'm going to be using ProAnalyst 2023 itself, but then I'm also going to be referring to the ProAnalyst 2023 page on the Excitex website. So Yeah, let me start by going to the website briefly. Okay, so if you're on the home page of the Excitex website, you can just go to products and then click on ProAnalyst 2023, or you can scroll down a bit, find ProAnalyst and click on that. And that will bring you to this page. It's very long. It has all of the information that a customer would need to know more about ProAnalyst 2023. I'm just going to do a brief rundown of the sections, and then I'll be jumping back and forth between this page and the actual software to talk about the toolkits and the different features in them. So there's an overview. There's what's new in 2023. There's an entire section on 3D analysis in ProAnalyst, which we will talk about next time. And then here is the section on toolkits. So we've sort of laid them out into these different categories, but for feature tracking toolkits, for example, they're all listed here, these the five that Peter mentioned. And here there's a table comparing these three 2D feature tracking toolkits. And so I'm going to be showing some of those and some of the new ones in the software. But then there's a section for each different category of toolkits. So there's the same thing for calibration, and then there's image correction, and then you have data reduction. And here you compare the two different graphing toolkits. So, and that's followed by a section on licensing, where you can learn more about the individual licenses that are offered for ProAnalyst 2023, and then also the group licenses, which we are working on instantiating now. So there's a lot more information on here, but those are the important ones. I'm going to be referring mostly to this toolkit section here. So I'm going to minimize that for now. There's no more license code that users need to enter. They can just plug the license key in, and then they can open ProAnalyst. You'll see that there's a brand new ProAnalyst 2023 splash screen with a darker background. There were a bunch of icons up at the top, and they've all been moved into places that make a lot more sense for user interaction. So I wanted to firstly say what's the same, because there's a lot that's different. So important things that are the same: associated files still work. So if customers who have been using ProAnalyst want to use 2023, but they want to revisit projects they've done in the past, they can. It's the same files. ProAnalyst 2023 is backwards compatible with associated files. And then also, we still recommend a project workflow. So I'm going to demonstrate that now. Here I have a project. This is the main window, and this here is the project window. And inside I have this video of a test done on a Leatherman. And we still recommend that users use this project window. And the functionality of the project window is mostly the same, but you'll see that throughout the software, the icons have changed. I'm going to double click this here to open it in the measurement window, which has undergone a few changes. You still have playback controls. You have all these controls up top for visibility and interactivity. But then along the right here, this is where most of the changes are. All of these are new icons for the toolkits and the control panels that contain the toolkits. And there's a few new ones, and some of them have new names. A lot of them have brand new features. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be running through an example analysis. And I'm going to go through the different steps of the motion analysis process, starting with calibration. So if I click here, you can see that it opens up this box here. We are calling this the control panel, and this control panel is titled Scene Calibration. If I jump back over to the website briefly, you can see that there is a Scene Calibration Toolkits section. And so standard calibration, orthonormal calibration, and perspective calibration are the 3 levels of 2D calibration. And if those are licensed, then all of them will be accessible from this scene calibration control panel. So this is one of the exceptions that Peter was talking about to the one-to-one between icons and toolkits. All of the 2D scene calibration toolkits fit in here, and I'm going to be demonstrating some of what it does. So here you can see that the calibration origin is in the top left here. You can see X and Y. This can be moved anywhere. I can set the origin. I can click somewhere and set the X direction. I can flip the Y axis. And there's my new coordinate system. So that's really helpful. Perspective calibration, which is the highest level of 2D calibration. That's useful for when your camera is not, the optical axis of your camera is not perpendicular to the plane of motion. So there's a lot of helpful calibration tools buried in here, but in the lowest level, the basic level, standard calibration, that's where you can set your scale, which is very important for analysis, and I will demonstrate how to do that. I do want to point out first, though, that typically when you're doing a calibration, you want an object of known size somewhere in the frame, and you want it to be as large as possible with respect to the frame. So here, ideally there would be like a ruler or something, just a simple ruler that was placed in the frame either before or after the test, so that the calibration can be done properly. Smaller doesn't work as well because then each pixel is a larger percentage of the total calibration distance, and so you could be like 5% off depending on the size of the video. So I'm just going to pretend here that I know one of these dimensions. I'm going to say click here, set 0.1, and then I'll click right in the middle of this A here, let's say, and I'll set 0.2, and let's say that I know that that's 4 centimeters. You can put in 4 centimeters, apply the scale, and now the units in the rest of my analysis will be in centimeters, or whatever units I choose, real world units instead of pixels. This is a very important step in the analysis process because pixels are not helpful outside of the screen. So that's calibration. If I go back to here, you can see that calibrating the scale of the plane of motion, that's in the standard calibration, which is included with all ProAnalyst 2023 purchases. That's one of the basic calibration toolkits. And you can switch between multiple calibrations, but if you want to place the origin or move around the coordinate axes or define custom planes of motion or calibrate using different scales and known distances from the camera, those are advanced features that you'll find in the higher levels. And all of that is listed here on the website. So the next step is image processing, image correction. And these have been renamed and updated with some new features. So here, this was formerly image processing. This is now called lookup table or LUT. That's standard terminology in image processing. And here you can adjust your standard brightness and contrast. You can invert the specific color channels, and then you can convert to black and white for color videos. The goal is to get the video as contrasted and as sharp as possible. This is a very nice looking video with a lot of gray values. It's very pleasing to the eye, but it doesn't make for easy motion analysis. And so the computer really likes to see black and white, sharp contrast, unique features, and you can do that with LUT. When you can't do it with just LUT, then you can use image processing, which used to be called image filtering. And this is adopted from signal processing. You have all of these image processing filters. You have binary, you have smoothing filters, different types of convolution, edge detection. So if I want to only look at the edges, let's say, I can apply this, and when I scrub through the video, you can see that that edge gets highlighted, and so that can be really useful, especially if the lighting in the video is not great. So once again, flipping back to the website here, you have lookup table and image processing listed, and there's more in-depth explanations there of what those do. There's also image stabilization, which I won't go into detail in right now, but you can stabilize a video. And so all of those are great toolkits for preparing an image for motion analysis. LUT is included in all purchases of 2023. The other two are not, and so those are things that customers might be interested in. Next is tracking. So I'm going to first go back to lookup table here. I'm going to load a LUT file that I previously had, and then I'm going to jump back to the beginning of the video. So I'm going to be talking about two tracking toolkits today. Others I think will come in the third session. And the most prominent one, of course, is feature tracking. There's technically 5 different levels. There's 3 different levels of the 2D feature tracking, and this control panel is the one that has undergone the most change. And so I'm going to spend a little bit of time here walking through the different changes and what each of the different sections do, and then I'll do an example analysis. So you enable the control panel here, and this control panel contains all 3 2D feature tracking toolkits: standard, adaptive, and full parametric. And here you have the table of the different tools available in the feature tracking control panel and to which toolkit they are attributed. So up here you have track modes. I'm going to be doing automatic and a brief bit of manual. Step manual and full manual, the only difference is that one of them auto advances. So when you place a manual tracking point, it will automatically advance you to the next frame or to the next feature if you are tracking multiple features at the same time. Whereas full manual, you have full control over whether or not it advances. Here's the feature list. So if I add a bunch of features, each of these is intended to track a specific feature of interest in the video. And these can be configured with this tracking settings menu. Here you can rename the feature, you can adjust search parameters, you can look for special target types, you can enable feature rotation, and so it'll search for not just the pattern that you defined, but rotations of the pattern for rotating features. Trajectory prediction, and then you can import track points from other places. So the settings in that settings dialog are divided amongst these 3. You can see that you get search area and matching threshold control with standard feature tracking. But if you wanted to adjust all of the search parameters, or you wanted to adjust the number of frames to search after the algorithm loses the feature for whatever reason, it goes behind an obstruction, whatever, those are only available in the highest level. And so here you can look at this table and see, for a particular use case, what toolkit would be most appropriate for a customer. So I'm going to clear all of these features here. So I can clear track points, either the ones in a particular frame or all of the ones in front of the frame that I'm on, or behind, or all track points for selected features. I can interpolate sections that don't have any tracking data. If I have tracking points on either side, I will demonstrate that in a little bit. There's display options, so you can choose whether or not you want to show all of the tracking points or just the ones for the frame that you're on. You can show past tracking points, and if you do that, you can add trails or vectors. What trails will do is show you the past tracking points, but they'll fade out, and so that's a nice visualization. And vectors will just draw an arrow to show you in what direction your feature is moving. And then you can show or hide different attributes of each feature, like their label, search areas around them, and so on. There's stick models, which allow you to draw sticks between different features and then construct models with angles and lengths. I will be demonstrating that as well. And then you have tracking and export. You can export your tracking data to text, Excel, etc. In whatever units you choose. Now that I've calibrated, it'll default to centimeters because that's what I chose for my calibration. So I'm going to briefly demonstrate. This is a very large video and it's long, so I'm going to just showcase briefly what automatic tracking can do, and then I'll load one that I've already done. So I'm feature one here. I'm on automatic. I just click define template. I draw a box, and then I click set template. And I'm going to change it to show only the current track points. And then I just click play. Nothing really interesting is happening in that. There we go. Now we get some movement. I'll define my template, set my template, and then I click play. And there's something that's coming in and hitting, and you can see that that part there is moving, but the feature track stays with it. And so if you have a clearly defined pattern like this one here, it's very easy to highlight it and then just have automatic tracking go through and track its position in time. So yeah, it's going to take a little bit longer to go through the whole video, so I'll just wait until it stops moving, and then I'll stop it. Okay, yeah, right about there. So automatic tracking like that is very easy. If instead I wanted to do manual tracking, I can switch to full manual. Actually, I'll switch to step manual. I'll put my reticle right there, let's say, and I will change my step rate down here in playback to 10 frames. And now if I click set track point, it will automatically advance the video by the step rate. And if I go back, set my step rate back to 1, you can see that I have a track point and then none for a while, and then another track point. So let me show all for a moment. So it's not moving a lot, but those are my 3 track points, and they're not in adjacent frames. But I could click this interpolate button, and now you can see all of those data points fill in between. So each of those track points was 10 frames apart, and if I click interpolate, it'll fill in the data. So that's a very useful tool for when you have very tedious slow motion, or if you have more complicated motion and you need to do a spline fit, but the feature goes behind some obscuration, like there's a pole in the way or something's in the foreground. So that's interpolation with manual tracking, very useful combination. And interpolation is available in both adaptive feature tracking and full parametric feature tracking, but not in the basic. So if someone is doing more complicated tracking and there's a lot of obscuration, that's a very valuable tool for them. So I'm going to now load up the feature tracking file that I have, this FTK file. And I just did this quickly. I grabbed that one, and I grabbed the E here on Leatherman. And if I scrub back and forth, you can see that they stick with those particular patterns there. So in order to demonstrate this next tool, which is called virtual points, I'm actually going to switch to constrained edge tracking, which is formerly called 1D line tracking. So I'm going to enable this. I have this channel here, which I can modify and then set. And along this channel, ProAnalyst will look for thresholds between light regions and dark regions, and it'll place a tracking point where it finds that boundary. So it's tracking an edge, but it's constrained to this channel, hence constrained edge tracking. So if I drew it from right to left, I go into the settings here, make sure it's black to white, and then I just click this track button. You can see that it automatically places this this white dot here, right on the border between black and white. I've already done this one as well, so I'm just going to load that. So let's say that I, for whatever reason, wanted to draw an angle between these three features. Well, this one is in constrained edge tracking, and these two are in feature tracking. So I can import this tracking point here from one toolkit to another. I can bring it into feature tracking. All I need to do is create a new feature, click on this button here, which opens up the virtual points. And there's a whole bunch of different types of virtual points. I can create a virtual point that's the midpoint between two other features. I can do a circle fit center. I can choose a particular angle offset. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to import from constrained edge tracking, and I'm going to grab the channel number 1. If I click OK, you can see that now there's a little blue triangle here right on top of that white dot. So I now have 3 features. I can now configure the stick models, add a stick, and then I want to go from feature 2 to feature 1 to feature 3. I want to show angle measurements. And this isn't a particularly interesting angle, all things considered, but you can see that it updates in real time as long as I have data for all 3. I didn't track the line all the way through the video. But this angle updates in real time, and I can get information from this angle, like the angle itself, or angular velocity, or angular acceleration. So that is tracking. You can see that constructing stick models, that's available for both of these higher level ones. But if someone's doing any sort of crash testing, or they want to use specific markers, those special targets, that the capability to track those is available only in the highest level in full parametric feature tracking. So that's tracking. A lot has changed here. Some of these features existed previously, but they were buried, and they've been brought to the forefront. They've been put in locations where people can easily access them, and they've been modified so that they run better with a lot of the other tools available in this control panel. So now that I have this angle, let's say that that's what I'm interested in, I can go and graph it. This is the graph configuration control panel. This is where I can access standard data graphing and advanced data graphing, both of which you can learn more about on the website. And if I add from the 2D menu angular velocity, you can see that as long as there is an angle, the angle starts here because I don't have tracking data before that. But that's the data for my angle here. And as I scrub through, you can see the video is also playing through. And there's a brief spike in angular velocity when the Leatherman moves the fastest. So this is kind of noisy, and there could be a whole bunch of causes for that. It could be that I didn't place my tracking points carefully enough, which is probably true. I did this very quickly. But what's new for a lot of ProAnalyst users is filtering. If I click on the wrench, I can enable filtering, and I can add, for example, mean, median, smoothing. And then there's my angular velocity profile. So there's a whole bunch of filters in here to combine different graph lines, to modify them, to smooth them, and yeah, there's a whole bunch of options for graphing. If I then wanted to export this data, I can go to export displayed data, export it to Excel, and then I get this, where the first 2 columns are the frame index, and this is time. I didn't calibrate time, so it's just the same as the frame index. And then here you have the angular velocity in degrees per second, I believe. The same process for exporting the feature tracking applies. So I can choose centimeters, I can go to Excel, and then I can export, and it'll produce a similar spreadsheet of the data. And then in all of these, there's a load and save at the top. If I have done any analysis that I want to keep, I can just click save, and I can save an associated file to my project. And then when I load up my project again, I can just click on one button, and it will load all of my associated files. So that is some of what's new in ProAnalyst 2023. When we talk about 3D, there will be more. Yeah, there's many new features, specifically in the feature tracking control panel, and all the information about what toolkit someone might want can be found on the website, if I didn't mention the website enough already.
That's great. And everybody can get a free copy of Essentials and start playing with it. Give it away to everybody. So we'll start building up, we'll use it as a tool to generate leads and go from there.